Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Small Business Breakthroughs. I'm Mike Bowers. I'm the director of the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. We're excited to have everyone here. Looks like we got a great group of people here, and we have Chaz. So we're doing pretty good. Now, Chaz is great guy too. Anyway, for those of you that are new to this, the Small Business Breakthrough is a program we do for the SBDC. We talk to business experts about their advice, their lessons learned, whatever it is to help small business owners. But if you're not that familiar with the SBDC, Small Business Development Center is designed to help entrepreneurs start, build, and grow their business. And we provide free advising services. We also provide a variety of training programs, which you can find on the site where you registered for this event. And we are coming down to the end of the year. It's late November, but it's really now it's a great time to start thinking about building your business, about things that you should be really doing to jumpstart your 24, get off to the right start. And that's a big reason that we have our guest, Matt Yerkes, today. So before we get started, I do want to bring in Chaz Futel. Chaz is the director of the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. And normally I am in the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center doing this, but today I had a meeting at Columbus State Community College, so I am actually in my conference room. This is not a underground bunker or an undisclosed location, but it is not quite as nice as we usually get with the deck. But we're happy to be able to do the event anyway, and have Chaz and Susie here to talk about some of the cool things that are going on at the deck. Chaz?
Well, as always, thank you so much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be co-hosting this event with SBDC, and certainly our longtime partnership with the deck way back to 2009. The deck's getting ready in 2024 to have its 25th anniversary, and we're excited to 15th anniversary. I'm trying to give us a few more years there. 15th anniversary, and of being in business, and we're excited with where things have gone. Graduated over 200 businesses from the deck since 2009, and still have believe over at 87% success rate of our graduates. So of our over 200 graduates, over 87% of them are still in business, to our knowledge, which is fantastic, and we're very proud of them for that. But we're very excited for today. Another great topic. And as Mike said, we're entering the end of the year, and we always get spikes at the deck. November, December, January of businesses that are looking to start businesses, that are looking to grow their business, and sometimes looking for space to call home. And so right now we always get a nice little spike of additional folks that are looking. So if anybody's out there that is looking for a space to call home for as low as $90 a month, we've got some great space to offer. But we're going to hear from a speaker that's got some similar opportunities available, and so I'm excited as always to hear from Matt Yerkes, because he's a friend and just an additional offering that Central Ohio has. Really, Central Ohio is so blessed to have so many people and so many organizations that serve the entrepreneurial community, and Matt is one of those. And so it's great to have him with us today, and look forward to what he has to share. So thanks, Mike.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot. Again, we're super excited to be able to continue our partnership with the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center as we move in. We've been involved with the deck for pretty much that whole 15 years. I think we may have been the first training program that was done during the grand opening of the original deck. So obviously this is a big deal, and it's a big deal for us to continue to have the opportunity to be involved here. A couple of things I wanted to mention. On December 8th, we have our SBDC's Capital Crash Course. This is the 18th Capital Crash Course that we'll be holding. And this is it's a capital conference, which is going to be providing you with information on thinking about capital, preparing to get capital, what kind of capital is out there. We've got a bank panel with banking experts that will be there to answer some questions and do some things, and actually be there to have a direct dialogue with the attendees. And then we have a special session where we will be going through a variety of special funding programs that can be found here in Central Ohio. So we have some individuals here to talk about those. And then I'm really excited that we have Jason Duff, who is the founder of Small Nation, who is going to come in and talk about their experiences with working with entrepreneurs, working with communities, and building up communities like they've done in Bellefontaine, Ohio. And if you're not familiar with Small Nation, I'd encourage you to search that and go look them up. It is a really interesting success story that they have done. And Jason brings a lot of background in working with entrepreneurs. Also, on December 21st is our next small business breakthrough, and we have a special guest. So Bruce can put that link in there, and you should go check out and see who the special guest is. But I'm sure that the special guest will be do an excellent job at the next session. And I neglected to mention on the Capital Crash Course that it is, again, December 8th, 2023. So if individuals that are watching this on YouTube next year don't get their dates mixed up, but it's a free event. So we want you to be there to hear these speakers, to network and connect with the folks there so that you're ready to take off and build your business going forward. So without further ado, we're going to move on to our guest for today. And, I'm really excited for this. This is, we've been working with Matt and his team with Cultivate for, a long time. I mean, since it was just in Grove City, but you've really expanded out from there. And I'm really, I'm always impressed with your story, the things that you've done prior to the Cultivate experience, but also, what you've done in terms of building this and really supporting this entrepreneurial ecosystem in Central Ohio. And like Chaz said, there's a lot of resources around to support entrepreneurs and small businesses in Central Ohio. I mean, I've been around, the country and different places, and, I think Columbus is one of the strongest entrepreneurial hubs and ecosystems that you're going to find. So with that, Matt, thank you for being here. We're excited to hear from you today. And if you want to just kind of jump in and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story and what's brought you to where you are with Cultivate now.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on this, and such a warm and kind introduction from you and Chaz. I'm an entrepreneur, and when we started Cultivate it was back in 2016, that was my first endeavor to create a nonprofit, which is very different from running a small business. And we really received a lot of support, from you guys, the SBDC, from the DEC in Dublin, other folks in the region, and a lot of support we've actually received from your speaker, Jason Duff, and the Small Nation folks over the years too. So so my story, I've really spent my whole career trying to grow businesses. So, before I started my first business, I was in sales kind of role, sales leadership role. Started my first business, like real business, in 2001. And that was a software and digital marketing company. And that business did well for me. And But I had the fortune of selling that back in 2015, and along the way, I've bought and restored a few old commercial buildings, and had some fun doing that. And I had just purchased a building in downtown Grove City, and I had this idea to create some kind of an entrepreneur space in that building. So that idea began to really take shape during those first couple of years, and we were able to receive some support from some organizations like the City of Grove City to help small businesses. And so we kind of began with that. But I've always been able, through all the work that we've done at Cultivate, to be able to kind of bring the perspective of someone that is really in the shoes of the same people that I'm meeting with. So I have been sleepless nights and wringing my hands trying to figure out how we're going to make payroll and resolve customer issues and grow our business and hire staff and all those things. I can really relate to your pain and struggles. So I've been there. I'm still there. So I still have a few businesses that I operate, but Cultivate is really my passion, and really seeing that nonprofit expand its impact. So we started our Cultivate location in 2016 and provide really a range of business support and business services out of there, along with co-working and office type spaces like some of the other spots do around town. And that's really important because so many people just really need like a home base for their company. And we just would really encourage people to seek out a place that is close to where you live, to do that. So as we began to fill up that building, I was eager to figure out how we could make additional impact in the region. And that took us to London, Ohio, where we were able to set up another location. And that London location really opened up a lot of doors for Cultivate because we were able to get some funding through a federal grant to help rural entrepreneurs. And that's how we ended up getting connected to the folks up in Small Nation, up in Bell Fountain, and others around the state, where we could help them with some of our trainings and programs. And then in 2020, we were able to launch a third location in Pickerington. So really pretty much everything we do is kind of south of 70 or outside of 270. And so that's kind of the quick story of Cultivate. But really through this whole time, the thing that gets me excited about working with small businesses is really helping people think through how they're going to get like their first customers and how they're going to get new customers. Because there's really nothing of more importance to a small business owner than getting customers. Like we're always going to lose customers through no fault of our own, through attrition, through all those, forces at work, things, people's needs change. So how do we do that? And so that's what kind of gets me up in the morning, is being able to help other people do that. And so every week there's small businesses coming, approaching us. A lot of them are service-based businesses. They're all really small businesses, people like myself that are just trying to figure this out. And they a lot of them work from home, or they're contractors and they work at the customer job site. And there's just so many things that we're being told to do as a small business owner, right? You've got to get customers, you've got to build a website, invest in that. You've got to post a couple times a day to your social media. You've got to get a Google business profile. There's all these things you have to do. And so, I routinely meet with small businesses that have poured a lot of money and elbow grease into these things, and it can be frustrated when like nothing really changed, So, it can be really discouraging because you put all that money and effort, and they're still left with the problem of how do I, keep growing my business? How do I get new customers? And so we've been working hard on programs, to not just kind of have like a sort of like a lunch and learn, maybe where people get like a nugget of information that they can apply to their business, but really trying to develop programs that can help people, really move the needle on their business. And so that we've been really trying over the last few years to try and, develop richer programming. And one story I like to share is a company that I met with earlier this year, and his name is Nate, and his company is Nate's Great Plumbing. And it's just been really exciting to see Nate grow his business this year. He just got a new like panel van. So if you're ever down in Grove City, you'll probably see like Nate's Great Plumbing, this giant panel van with his logo plastered across. His wife has joined the company now, helping with like customer service and marketing, and they've got dozens of 5-star reviews, and business is going really well. But when Nate first came to us, that wasn't the case. So he had just moved into our area from out of state. He didn't have a lot of customers trying to get this plumbing business up and going. And so what we tried to help him do is create what I call a professional business presence. And this is something you could do, at the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, at one of our spaces. There's lots of places you could do this at, but the essentials are that we coach people on is to first of all get a business address that's not your house, that's kind of in the heart of the community that you're trying to reach. Like that's the first thing that we're trying to help people to do. So there's lots of great options for that. The second thing is, obviously, everybody needs to have a professional website. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And you need a Google business profile that's using that business address that you have. So we're routinely seeing small businesses, especially service-based businesses, they're getting like half of their new business leads from their Google business profile. So it's a super important, tool in your chest, your tool chest, to be able to have that. And so there's some things we need to do. But what we found is before you begin that process to set up those 3 essentials, the address, the website, and Google business profile, there's really some legwork and strategy that has to happen that can be really hard for people to figure out on their own. Nate is a master plumber. He's never really, other than selling, his plumbing services, meeting with customers, has never really had any professional sales or marketing experience. So this is where, someone like the SBDC or other advisory groups or, Cultivate, can come in and help someone. What we're trying to do is help people really with three main parts to their strategy. The first is really thinking through, how do you create value for your customers that is compelling and stands out from your competitors? And so that's, we have exercises and some trainings to kind of help people, work through that. Second thing is, what are like all the sales touch points for like your sales process, your sales pipeline? Like what are all the points from the first time they find you in a Google search, or you meet someone at a networking event, or whatever brings you together with that person? What are all the steps that have to happen from that first hello until they become a customer, and really kind of sketching that out? And how do you fill that sales pipeline with leads that move towards becoming customers? So I like to work with people on that. And the third thing is creating these core marketing messages that effectively communicate what it is your business offers and why customers should buy from you. And these core marketing messages are kind of like drawing people into your sales pipeline and helping to move them through that sales process until they become a customer. And obviously that looks different for every kind of business. Some people have a pretty short sales cycle. Like someone calls up Nate and they're like, hey, my water heater's broke. How much does it cost to get a new hot water heater? Gives them a price. Hey, I'll come out and replace this tomorrow. Versus like other businesses, you could have a days or weeks or even months long sales cycle. So helping people to figure that out for their business is it's a lot of fun to be able to help them think those things through. What I've been trying to do is, instead of having like hundreds of these individual one-on-one meetings each year to do that, I've organized for 2024, I'm starting to deliver that type of help in what I'm calling a 30-day business growth boot camp. So I'm starting that in January, and kind of leading people through figuring out those 3 strategy points that I talked about. And but to really help explain that to people, I have a page on my website, cultivateworks.org/bootcamp, and that kind of explains the program, and also has some dates for some free information sessions that I'm going to be offering the week of December 11th for someone that just wants to learn more what that could look like. I'm going to have some options for people that are really on a super tight budget, but still as a pressing issue for them if they want to audit some of those sessions for free. And if you can't join one of those free info sessions, there's a form on the bottom of that page, cultivateworks.org/bootcamp, where you can just request like a video of that presentation when it's available, and I'll do my best to get that to you as soon as we have that together. So that's kind of in a nutshell, like what we're working on, what we're working on right now, and how we're helping small businesses. And
That sounds great. Sounds great. So let's break a little bit of this down, because a lot of times we get individuals that come in and they're super passionate about the business, or they're really good at what they do. Maybe they're like Nate, they're a master plumber and they're going to do this. Or they want to start a restaurant, something like that. But like you said, they don't understand the business aspects of this, and where they run into, my experience, where they run into problems is they're trying to do this themselves. So they don't understand all of these pieces. So coming to someone like yourself, like me, like Chaz, like Bruce, to kind of give an understanding of, here are some steps and here's some things you need to think about, I think are really critical. When you're at that, I'm getting started, I'm getting up and running, but I need to find my first customer. And I know that varies a little bit based on, what kind of business it is. You talked about this professional business presence. Can you let's dive into that a little bit more and talk about how that really can spur forward your customer acquisition plan?
well, I feel like that that point at which you're ready to set up your professional business presence, that's like I look at that as that's a milestone in the process. So there's like a whole series of these milestones on our entrepreneurship journey, and so that's one of them. And that's at the point, I think, when we're ready to start engaging customers. That's the point where we're kind of address all those pieces to that milestone. But when people, prior to that, there's so much work to do, to really validate your business idea and make sure that there's going to be customers and demand for that. It is a very time-consuming process to create a thorough business plan. We in the early days of Cultivate, I used to spend lots of time with people, helping them with those business plans, and we just kind of ran out of resources to be able to help people with that. So now we refer them to the SBDC, because you guys will help them with that for free and provide all these great resources. And but I often see people kind of jump too soon into that point of trying to really launch their business without necessarily doing all of the prep work, to all the prep work first. And I am the worst example. Like I'm just like so many entrepreneurs that has this idea and I want to just start doing it right away, but I've kind of learned to try and hold myself back a little bit until I can answer a few really important questions. I actually have a video on our Cultivate website where I go through these things, but I try and help people think through, is this a business we should start? And with the emphasis on the opportunity, and kind of like peeling back sort of these layers of the onion to figure out, is this really a great opportunity, and what that could look like. Second question I try and help people look at, is this a business you should start? And the emphasis on you personally, and kind of like the talents and things that you bring to the table to make this successful, or do you have like the right team to be able to execute that? And then the third question I try and look at is is this a business you should start now? And man, there's so many ideas that that we have that are really could be successful businesses, but it might not be the right time in our life, to do it. And or we might not have yet enough capital to start it and see it through. So I think really doing all that legwork first is super important. But if we kind of address those issues, think through some of those things, and we're left with the idea that, hey, this could still work, this, like, we haven't like talked ourselves out of it, then you probably have something there to put more time into. And we just want to try and encourage people. We're really trying to keep people, and myself included, from spending like the next 2 years of our life and our life savings on a business. It really doesn't have all the ingredients, in place, not just for it to get started, but to see it through to where it can be, profitable and successful and grow. So, putting like as much of that work in as possible, before you start spending money and making, financial commitments is really the best way to do it. And, but from there, once we feel like we have that in place, then it's never too soon to start trying to sell, so figuring out, is there a way that we can, sort of start this in like this business in a small way, maybe as like a side gig, or in a more limited way with our potential customer, to start, verifying that, this is something that people actually want. Trying to think of ways to do that. Oftentimes, we have ideas that are going to take a lot of money to be able to, get it fully up and running. And, that money just might not exist for us to be able to do that and get to see that business. So we have to kind of regroup and figure out, what could we do in like sort of a smaller way that kind of moves us in that direction. But yeah, then, as soon as possible, start talking to potential customers, building that professional network of people that you can introduce your ideas to, and, try and get them, to at least begin moving towards becoming a customer.
Yeah, I think that this is something that I know that we're really big on, is that we want them to, if they want to start a business, to start thinking through this, validate your idea, understand your market, understand your customers, and do that stuff so that you can make those decisions about whether you want to move forward, or whether you want to move forward the way you thought you were going to, or you want to pivot a little bit and do different things. I mean, we have a program that we call BizStar 2.0 that Kevin Hammond does, that, that's the whole, really the intention of that program, is to get people thinking about that, because you hit it on the head. I mean, I've seen so many people that they jump in and they use their money to validate whether this is going to work, versus let's do some research, let's talk to some people, let's do some, just try to understand really what everything looks like. Then if the lights are green, then let's start taking it to the next level, versus let's jump in. I know it's going to work because I would buy it, and my family said that it was great, and they start pumping money into it, and that's when they get to a point where they've run out of money a lot of times. Then they've got to backtrack. So they've spent their money and they've spent their time doing something that they could have validated before that. So I think that is really, really critical as you go through here. So I want to talk a little bit about this concept, this sales pipeline concept, because I think people may have heard that. But if you're not in business, and if you're a great plumber and you're going to jump in here, you may not have any idea what we're talking about. How do you think about the sales pipeline from inception? Let's get the first customer and start doing this, to where you start to build some of this out and it's starting to cook a little bit. and how do you connect and work with that then?
So my one of my favorite examples of a sales pipeline is someone that I knew that sold bread at a local farmer's market. So this is, so the steps of this person selling bread at the local farmer's market. So they get there early in the morning, set up the little pop easy up. They have these breads, out on the table, and maybe this is like, cut up little samples of bread, and have them out there for people to try. And then, people start coming to the market. Someone walks by and, you say hello, right? So like that's what the vendor does. They just say hello. And the person walking by, looks and turns at them and acknowledges their hello, maybe says hello back. And that's the beginning of that person kind of coming into their sales pipeline. Okay. So the next thing is really the vendor cutting out what I would say is your call to action. Like, come on up, try as many samples as you like. That's what they would say, to try and engage them. And then if that person comes up and does that, that's again, you have this next step. And really what we're trying to do is, whether we're selling bread at the farmer's market or selling our graphic design services or bookkeeping or whatever it is we sell, we're trying to develop a process to build trust with customers. And this begins with like the first hello, and it continues until they become a client. And then even after they're a client, there's still things we're trying to do to build trust with them so that they will be a repeat customer, give us reviews, referrals, we can upsell, cross-sell them. So that whole thing is the sales pipeline. So they come up, they start trying samples. We start asking them some questions to learn more about their needs. Like, are you trying to, what are you buying this bread for? A particular meal you're trying to pair this with? Other things that we try and do to really understand what they're looking for, how we can support them. And eventually, they trust in you, your product, and your brand. And they become a customer and buy the loaf of bread. So at the farmer's market, that happens in like 2 or 3 minutes. That's a pretty quick sales cycle, but hopefully it's been a positive experience. They trust in you, your product, and your brand, and then they come back next week and become, buy bread again or order it from your website. So that's like the simplest step. Most of the people we work with tend to be service-based businesses. So it could be a contractor, a bookkeeper, any kind of service-based business, a counselor, all kinds of folks. So for them, their hellos aren't happening, at a farmer's market. It's happening online. So how do people find you? And they look for a plumber near me. You show up in a Google search result, and that is kind of like the hello, that you get that the vendors had at the farmer's market. And then they click on your link and come to your website. That is, they read whatever you had on, however you showed up in the search result. And then when they kind of turn their head and come and look at you to acknowledge the hello, that's like a click coming to your website. Then you have, maybe 7 seconds to convince them that what you offer is really relevant to them, or they're just going to click back in their browser, right? So like that's where we have to effectively communicate what you offer, why buy from you, and what is this call to action? What is this first step that they should take to engage your business? It's like the try as many samples as you like, that the farmer's market vendor had. What is that on your website that is just this really small first step that can kind of engage them so they become a lead in your sales pipeline? And then, usually from there, there's a series of like more personal selling things, depending on what your business. Most of us aren't selling something that you're just going to click and buy a product online. Some of us do, but usually it's, how do we kind of create then like a conversation with this person so we could, build a rapport and trust with them.
If one, I forgot to mention this earlier, if anybody has any questions, put those in the chat and we'll make sure that we ask Matt these questions. But, when we talk about this sales process, I love your example, with the farmers market, but you're right. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of folks, they may not have that face to face, but if they do have that face to face, maybe not the farmers market example, but maybe they're selling something on, whatever, maybe it's a B2B type of thing or whatever. This point you brought up about, asking questions or trying to understand what their needs are, I think is really important. But it's also been my experience that I've seen a lot of people that they're kind of afraid of that question part. They don't want to ask the questions because they think they might be intruding on the person or something like that. But so then they just kind of go into what they thought about, and all of a sudden they're pushing what they think the customer needs on it, as versus the customer actually telling them what they need. So what guidance do you have for folks when they kind of get to that point of trying to do that discovery with folks?
So I think the best trait of a salesperson is to learn how to ask really good questions, and as business owners, I mean, we're the subject matter expert. We probably know more about, this thing than our customer does. And a good example of this. So people call every week. We get leads at our business centers, and people are like, "Hey, I want to get a business address." So that's what people tell me that they want. But I know that what they really are looking for is they're trying to find a way to set up a Google business profile so people can find them. So I'm not like really, I don't just like leave it there with their request to, I could say, yeah, it costs X amount to have a business address at one of our places. I want to take that opportunity to really poke further and make sure I understand that what they're really trying to do. That they're really trying to, create like a Google business profile in this community so people that, go online and do a search can find their business. So it gives me an opportunity to start asking lots of additional questions to really understand, what the problem is that this person is trying to solve, and help solve their actual problem with one of our, solutions, as opposed to, just kind of reacting to this initial thing that they just said. And and then I think the other piece that's important with asking questions through that process is to ask questions that can help you understand like where they are in that process. Are they, because some people are ready to make a decision and make a purchase, immediately. And some people, are further away, or they just, maybe they don't really know you well enough to, have confidence that you can help them, with whatever it is that you're selling, especially if it's a complicated product. So, being able to ask some questions to really gauge where they're at in that buying process. So you aren't, I mean, at some point you have to ask for like the business, you have to like, at least offer to, are they ready to, receive a proposal for something, right? And kind of ask, these questions that kind of lead you towards, closing them and winning them as a customer. So figuring out what those questions are that work well to see where they're at in that process is important too.
What do you say to the small business owner, or the want to be small business owner, or there is a small business owner that comes to you and they, say, I'm not a salesperson, I can't sell, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But you don't know ahead, they know more about the business than anybody.
Yeah.
But they don't really click to that. What do you tell them?
I see that all the time. And earlier in my career, I started many years ago, like in sort of the graphics and advertising business, back when like Photoshop, like when the Macs like first came out. It kind of dates me a little bit, but I worked in that area for a long time, and I went to the owners of my company, and I I said I wanted to do something different in the company, and they asked me if I wanted to go into sales. And thought that was like the worst idea for the same reason that you say. Like, I had a very negative view of salespeople. We go to, there's, certain sales experiences we have that are just really unpleasant, right? And so I kind of lump salespeople into that. But I decided to make the change, went into sales, but because I really understood like the nitty gritty of what like our business did, I was able to go and meet with clients and prospective clients. I really understood like the challenges that they were having and how to help them through that, because I knew like better than like your normal salesperson, like how to, accomplish what they wanted, because I had like that firsthand knowledge and expertise in that area. So, so that was very helpful to me. And that is the single greatest thing that helped me when I started my first business, was that selling experience. But, when I try and explain to people, it's, instead of thinking of it as like being a salesperson or a selling process, we really have to think of it as a trust building process. So ultimately what we're trying to do is build a relationship with these customers where they know that they can rely and depend on you for whatever this solution is that you're providing. And, like some of the things that I've sold over the years, were quite expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year of, for an account. And, that person who is buying that from me, like their job maybe is on the line because, by deciding to use, me to provide a service to their company. So they really had to develop a confidence and a trust that I was going to, not make them look bad, because they're choosing me as a vendor. And so really just thinking of it as a trust building process and coming to the table with like a genuine interest in trying to understand like what the problems are that this customer has. And then, figuring out what are the things that your business does really well that can help them, and not being afraid to, we don't have to sell something to everybody. If somebody, if a customer comes to us and we know that there is another company that maybe provides a similar offering that we do, but for some reasons it's just going to be a better fit for them, we're all going to be better off for it, to just, maybe connect them to that other company, and forgo the sale. And people will respect that and appreciate that. And that is going to do more to build like that relationship than, if you did try and sell them something that it wasn't really a good fit, and then, they just have a bad experience through that process.
Yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of people equate sales experiences that they've been the buyer on, that they've been negative, to all sales experiences. And that's not necessarily the case. And that tends to intimidate folks and keep them from moving forward to where they need to be. So I want to take a quick shift here, because I know that individuals also come to you asking about funding. So what are your thoughts about how to properly use funding in your business? What do you need to be thinking about, et cetera, for individuals that are looking to grow their business?
Yeah, we definitely, everybody needs some kind of capital to start their business and to like operate their business. One of the things that took me a while to figure out was where you go for funding is based on what you're going to use that funding for. So if I need funding to buy a new work van for my business, I could probably go to a bank and get a loan for that. But if I'm, trying to get money to cover payroll for my, for my business, there's not too many people that are going to lend you money for that, because, you basically, your business isn't generating enough, money to profit to cover your payroll. So you're having to borrow money to cover payroll. Like that's kind of you're not really headed in the right direction if you need to borrow money, to cover your payroll, right? So, so really kind of figuring out from folks, what do you need money for? What are you going to use that money for? And bank or anybody's going to want to know that too. So they're going to want to see, sort of this use and source of funds. So when we're thinking about our business, just really going through and every single thing we're going to need to spend money on, and how we're going to get the money for that, and that's a real challenge. So people, a lot of business owners, there's really kind of three ideas that they have for funding. One is a loan. That seems like the least attractive thing because you got to pay it back, and maybe with very heavy interest. So that's not like super interesting, but sometimes that has to happen. The second thing is people might think they want to have investors, and the problem is, the typical investor really is only interested in investing in opportunities where they could have a very high, it's very high risk for them. So they are only going to invest in something that they believe is going to have a very high rate of return, and to make that risk worthwhile to them. And what a lot of people don't really think about is when you take on investors, you are really giving up, ownership and claim on future profits of your business. So, we've seen people that, found a company, they start a company, they get investors, and, they have to have a board, and, 2 years into this, the board doesn't like the way that this founder is running the business, and they have the power to replace that person out of the business that they started. So you're really giving up a lot of control. So that doesn't really sound like too interesting to a lot of people unless that's like your only option. And then the third request that we hear a lot are people looking for grants to start their business. And really, those don't exist, for the most part. I mean, there are some things here and there, but they're very specific for very, specific, types of businesses. There's just not really people handing out money, to people to start their business. There are some opportunities for nonprofits to get grants to do very specific things. So it really kind of leaves the small business in a place where you're going to have to scrimp and save some amount of money on your own to do this, and figure out how to bootstrap it, at least get to the point where, you start to have some customers, and then your business becomes much more interesting for an investor or a lender, to come alongside and help you with things.
Yeah, I mean, if you start to put together, the actual sales process, you start selling, you start getting some folks that are interested and are paying you to do this, then your path to being able to get funding is going to be, a lot easier. I say a lot, but it's going to be easier because, again, they can see that, hey, maybe you got something because somebody's interested in this. You're not guessing. You're not saying, hey, I think this is going to work. Hey, I've got some history here. And I think that a lot of people get really focused in on the funding, and they got to have the funding, and they got to have the funding. Whereas if this source and use of funds thing that you talked about, the form or the documents, we promote that. And I think that's really important because it gives you, as the entrepreneur, an idea to be able to say, this is what I need. This is where it's going to come from. And if you see that gap in there, that becomes something that you need to be thinking about. And oftentimes that gap is filled by being able to start the sales process. There is a question in here. Darren is asking, do you feel you need a certain amount of money reserved for insurance, legal coverages, et cetera, to start the business?
So when we're first putting our budget together to start a business, there's definitely legal, there's definitely insurance, and there are lots of things that you don't even think about, if you were to just start with a blank sheet of paper, so, I'm sure the SBDC, I know we and other places online, you can get like a sample business budget, and at least to have like all those categories of expenses that you're going to have. Because and then start doing some legwork to really pin down like how much you're going to need for your particular business, because it's going to be very different if you're your insurance, if you're starting one of those bounce house party businesses, like a trampoline park or something, is going to be way different, or like a contractor versus like a bookkeeping business, it's going to be minimal. So what we try and do is help people, prepare the initial budget, and then connect them to service providers that that will take a little extra time with you to kind of answer your questions, really understand what your business is doing and what you're going to need, so they can give you a more accurate estimate of what you're going to need, to budget for each of those things. And so yeah, like with for insurance, we see people that don't even have like basic like commercial liability insurance, and if you're like depending on your business, you may be able to get that for $50 a month, but if you're in a business that has more risk and exposure, it would be hundreds of dollars a month. But yeah, there's so many things that you don't even think about, or even when I started my software company out of my house, and then about a year later, we moved into like a commercial space, and like the rates that you pay for electric when you're a business versus like a resident, your house, are way different. Like your electricity and gas cost a lot more per like the amount that you're using. And my first winter in this office we had in Grandview, it was like my gas bill was like $800, and I, like in my wildest dreams, I never thought like I would spend $800 on like a gas bill, and so like talking to people that have some knowledge and experience about what you're kind of be getting into and what that's going to cost, laying that all out first before you start spending any money is important.
Yeah, and I think that gets back to this concept you talked about with the business plan. I mean, I think people get into this business plan mindset of, I'm going to go download this from the SBA website, or I'm going to do something else, get Business Plan Pro, and I'm going to start filling out the boxes. But really, it's about, what are you going to need to build this business, and what's that going to look like? And, we talk a lot about, an operating plan versus a business plan, because we're trying to shift people's thought process to, this is what I need to start thinking about. And also it wasn't Darren, it was Doran. I need to get a bigger screen. Bruce, can you give me a bigger screen that I can use on this? Last question. And what do you think that folks should be doing? Obviously, we've got folks on here live with us today. We've got individuals that are going to be watching this on YouTube. So it's a variety of things. But, here we are. It is November 30th. Other than going to your boot camp information sessions next month, what do you think people should be doing really to improve their business and get themselves ready to launch into 2024 and have the kind of success that hopefully they want?
So the two things that I do for my businesses, especially this time of year, the first thing that I do is I'm not just making a budget for next year, but I'm breaking that out on a month by month basis to see how much cash I'm going to have at the end of each month, based on all the known inflows of cash coming into my business and cash going out of my business. Because I want to know, to the highest degree possible, come next, March, how much cash am I going to have to operate my business? Am I going to, and then looking at, especially if if my business has repeat customers, that maybe I'm billing every month or every year. I like those kinds of businesses that have like recurring revenue. Looking at what would happen if I was to lose this account or this account, and then so I have some preparation so I can, of what kinds of adjustments that I could make in those situations. And then, going back, thinking through each of my my most important customers. A lot of us, like that 80-20 rule, like maybe 80% of our business sometimes as a small business comes from 20% of our customers. So, really making sure that those relationships with those key customers are in a good place moving into the next year, that I really understand, where they're at with, with their business, and, basically are things going to be good, with us next year. And then, making sure I'm, just really trying to figure out what am I going to be doing to get more leads into my sales pipeline. What am I going to be doing to get better quality leads in my sales pipeline? So like, make sure I'm going after the right customers, those customers that just really fit in well with what our business is doing, that are agreeable to work with, that are profitable, making sure I'm just focusing on getting more of those customers, and what could I do better at kind of moving people through that process of, from the first time I meet them until, they become a customer. What can I do better at that? So that's what I'm trying to do right now. And that's what I would encourage anybody to do is, I try and start that, in like September, October, really thinking about that stuff. But it's not too soon, it's never too late to start, working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's great advice. And I think that everybody should really be thinking about, because it's a great opportunity. There's no real big difference between December and January. I mean, December is usually a little slower, a lot of holidays. January's, if you're in Ohio, it's colder and things of that nature. But I mean, you can do this planning, you can do this prep, and you really should be doing this stuff, on an ongoing basis anyway. But to really just take an opportunity to kind of, see the forest from the trees, get you an opportunity to really think about your business strategically about what you want to do. And I think that makes a big difference going forward. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up now. I think, Matt, this has been a great session. I don't know if you want to leave anybody with any parting words here.
Just that, we have an open invitation for anybody to come to cultivateworks.org. There's like a get started button where you can take what I call our discovery assessment. And that helps us, connect you to different resources that we have and that are available in the region. There's actually a specific place, say you want to get connected to the SBDC, and we'll connect you with Mike and his team on that form. But there's, many other resources that we'd love to be able to make connections for. So that's kind of my open invitation, cultivateworks.org.
Yeah, and I'd encourage everybody to take advantage of that, because Matt has a lot of experience, and I think he's done a really great job of supporting the entrepreneurs that he's talked to, that he's worked with. He's done, I think, a great job of building Cultivate up. And this wasn't, my experience with Cultivate too, is it wasn't just, hey, I'm just going to go open something. I mean, you really had to build that up, and you worked with the city of Grove City, and, you guys worked together and you partnered and you did different things to not only build out Cultivate, but also build out the area of the city for that area too. So, again, it's about this partnership, it's about working together and doing different things. And I think that's really important. So definitely take a look at that. Also want to, again, thank Chaz and Susie from Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. Again, it's another great venue to talk to, not only space, but there's great opportunities to interact both with the community, the SBDC, and with Chaz and his team with Noble, where they will interact and kind of support you and help you build out your business strategies too. So again, I can't emphasize enough, Columbus is I think the mecca of entrepreneurship. I mean, there's so much support here, and it's a great opportunity. Also wanted to once again invite everybody to the Capital Crash Course, which will be December 8th, 2023. That's Friday. And it is going to be really, really good. If you're thinking about funding, this is going to be something that's going to make a huge difference in your business. And invite you to our small business breakthroughs in December, on December 21st. If you've gone and checked that out, you'll actually see where I'm going to be the guest, and TJ Evelyn is going to be asking the questions. And if you've watched where TJ and I have done this before, I think they're really fun, and I think that you get a lot of great information. So I encourage you to jump on there, and want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank Bruce and the other members of the Small Business Development Center team for all they do all the time, not just for this hour. And look forward to seeing everybody again with Small Business Breakthroughs. You guys have a great day.